Hello everyone and welcome to our first episode on Linux Volume 1. We're going to discuss everything pertaining Linux, but on this episode we're going to do a brief introduction of what is Linux, the basics of Linux, distribution, different kind of distributions within the Linux uh, uh, industry or field as an operating system. And without further ado, I'll jump into the business of the day, and that's Linux. You need to introduce Linux, and so that you can narrow down to Kali Linux and understand the distinction between Linux and Kali Linux and where the branch comes in. Now, Linux was built by Linus Torvald in 1991. He wanted to create an open source, a free open source, just like Unix. By then, Unix was being used by universities and big manufacturing companies and enterprises, that is. But from the perspective of Linus, it was a huge, and it was commercialized. Unix was commercialized, and therefore we wanted an open source that is free, an operating system that is free and also an open source. Therefore he created Linux. He did not expect the reception of Linux by the community would be that big or rapid, because most people embraced the open source nature of Linux because it could be used or customized to different needs. Therefore, it gave birth to different distributions and the so-called distros as we are being presented here. Uh, so we have different kind of distributions within the Linux industry, and the first one that we're going to use, actually we need to introduce what distribution as. Distribution are just packages that combine the Linux kernel and other software tools and desktop environment tailored for specific purposes. For example, if you are a cloud developer, server manager, or a red team hunter, we have so many open source operating systems from Linux that can be used or tailored towards your need. Therefore, with different distributions or other flavors, you can take or use whatever that is working with your need of the day. Now, the first one that we're going to introduce is the Ubuntu. Ubuntu is user friendly and widely used. It's ideal for beginners, developers, and server managers, developers, anyone who is shooting themselves with the servers. Ubuntu is the way to go. It's backed by Canonical, and has a vast community, excellent support. Yeah, the support team from Ubuntu uh, is friendly and is readily available, and it's also friendly for those who want to uh, for beginners and developers who want and also those who want to interact with the servers. The next is the Arch Linux. It's lightweight and highly customizable. It's geared toward advanced users who want full control over their systems. Yes, Ubuntu is quite friendly, but Arch Linux is, I can say, it's complicated because it's more open, whereby it's an open book whereby you need to customize and add and put some add-ons depending on the need that you want to achieve. Therefore, it calls for um, experience and even being informed of how these add-ons are being operated or how they are being customized. Therefore, it's complicated compared to Ubuntu. So next we have Fedora. Fedora is sponsored by Red Hat. As you can see, it has a red hat, focuses on innovation, cutting edge features, often used by developers and tech enthusiasts. So for those who are interested in tech, Fedora is the way to go. It's sponsored by Red Hat. Uh, it's also open source for innovation. This is meant for innovation. The rest is for the innovators those who want to have something or a contribution to the tech space. Fedora is the way to go. Debian is next in line, known for its stability and extensive software repositories. Uh, serves as the foundation for many other distros, including Ubuntu. Yes, because it has so many repositories. Repositories are just like stores, or like just like a Play Store or an iOS store, whereby you have so many applications, but a repository you have softwares that are used or add-ons that can be used in the uh, open source operating systems. Therefore, that's Linux. Uh, CentOS, it's now called Rocky Linux or Alma Linux, previously a free version to Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and popular in enterprise environment and for servers. Yes, CentOS, it was sponsored by Red Hat, and it is deployed mostly in a in an environment that need server management, like for organizations, big companies that need server management. CentOS is the way to go. To finalize on this, we're going to check on Kali Linux. Kali Linux is tailored for penetration testing and ethical hacking. Comes preloaded with tools for cyber security professionals. Yes, this one will be the one that we'll be going to deal with, because as I said before, I'll be uh, measuring my tutorials on Kali Linux, because mostly I'll be doing cyber security penetration testing. Therefore, Kali Linux, if you want to venture in the field or to explore the field, Kali Linux is the way to go. Linux means is another distro which is focused on simplicity and easy to use. It's a great option for users transitioning from Windows. Now, Linux Mint, it has a combination of, as the name says, it's a mint between a GUI, that's a graphical user interface, and a CLI, that's a command line interface. So a command line is a terminal, just like, let me present one to you. Command line is a terminal. This one is like that one, that's a terminal. And while a graphical user interface, the user interface like for the Windows, whereby you have just uh, nodes, um, buttons, and everything that you can use to navigate. But in case of a CLI, you're the one who inputs the command to the system and instruct the system on what to do. Therefore, Linux Mint is it's welcoming for such a case, especially for newcomers. It will give you an interaction or an exposure on both. Next is the OpenSUSE. OpenSUSE, we have two types of, or rather two versions of this kernel version, whereby the rolling release is called Tumbleweed. That is ever changing. It has so much customization. Patch levels keep on. Um, we keep on having patch levels that updates changes in terms of interface. And the stable one is called Lib. It's suited for developers and system administrators. So system administrators and developers, OpenSUSE is the way to go. Now to this point, I won't elaborate more, because we have other many types of distribution that we are not going to use, or rather not being interested for this moment, but later on when we reach that point we'll be exploring. But I wanted to introduce this point, this episode, to understand what are distros, what is Linux, where did Linux come from, and where are we going to, and how are we going to filter into and measure into Kali Linux and other. But in cybersecurity, we need to understand all these other operating systems, the time slow by slow. But for this point, in terms of distributions, we are done. And we just want to introduce a small concept here on how we are going to run our installations, and how we are going to set our infrastructure. Now, before us, we have a model that is representing what is going what our system is, or how we're going to do an installation of Kali Linux or guest OS. Now, the bottom part of it, you have the hardware, physical hardware. The physical hardware is the underlying component that we are going to do the installation on. Are we going to install on a desktop, a laptop, a mobile phone? What is the underlying infrastructure? That's the physical hardware. Next on it is, on top of the physical hardware, we need to understand what is the host OS. The host OS is the main operating system that the physical hardware is running on. Uh, so understanding the guest OS is quite handy, because all this information uh, is used when we want to start when we want to initiate installation or download for the tools that we're going to use in our installation part. That's the next episode. And I also, earlier on, I also shared an article on the minimum system or system requirement for for an installation to happen, because most of the time and the challenges that we get during installation is the space or specifications. Therefore, it's very good to understand the specification of the need of your system from the word go, so that installation can be easy. Unless that is observed and respected, we will have a problem and error towards the end or during our phase. Now next, after the host OS is the hypervisor. A hypervisor is an environment that creates a secluded or a quarantine environment that you can run our guest operating systems. It will give you an environment that just like the host operating systems, and um, connect uh, uh, through the environment. You can be able to do a lot of things. We can seclude or connect our host OS from the guest OS, or give them a bridge connection whereby they can just communicate one on one. For hypervisors, we have so many hypervisors, but the most common one that we'll be dealing with is the Oracle VirtualBox and the VMware. But for this case, for installation for our tutorial, we'll be using Oracle at this point, but later on we will be using VMware. On top of the hypervisor, we have the guest operating system. So the guest operating system, these are operating systems that run on top of the host operating system. We have so many, uh, like those flavors that we have just covered. You can install each and one of them on top of the hypervisor. You can install Ubuntu, Linux Mint, Kali Linux, Windows, all those CentOS. You can install all of them on top of one hypervisor. And thanks to the hypervisor, whereby we don't need to purchase other sets of PCs or computers or machines, so that you can be able to test or run these other flavors of operating systems. Yeah. So guys, after covering the basic of Linux, exploring these kinds of flavors or rather distributions, now we'll be going to our next step, that is initiating the download of the tools that we'll be using to install the Kali Linux. And as I said before, I'll be basing my tutorials more on Kali Linux, because I'll be operating cybersecurity and penetration testing tutorial rather. Now, for this case, we'll be doing 3 installations. The first one will be the Microsoft distributable Visual C++, and the second one will be the Oracle VirtualBox, and then we finalize by downloading the Kali Linux ISO. Now, from this interface before you, I want to show you that the first thing that we'll be downloading is the Microsoft Visual. Now we'll be heading to our browser. Yeah, go to a browser of your choice. In this case, I'll be using Google Chrome. Now, search for Microsoft Visual. Microsoft Visual. C++. So in this case, click the first link, that one. You'll be directed to a site like this one. You'll be directed to a site like this one. Now, from this point, before you click on share the download, you need to understand what is the Microsoft Visual C++, because I think other things have covered. The VirtualBox have covered, the ISO Linux have covered. I think this one is the part that I've not covered. Now, from this model over here, we have the physical host and the hypervisor and the guest. So over a Microsoft Visual C++ is used for communication, for relaying information between the hypervisor and the BIOS to the guest OS. Now, any provisions that the guest OS needs, like the signals from the keyboard, network, anything, the Microsoft Visual will be that guy who will be used to relay information in between, to and fro. Now, I think with that summary of what is Microsoft Visual, I will head to the download page. How is it come? Now, from here, click the first one. When you click the first one, it will drop you here. Now we have leave around this ARM. Let us deal with this x86 and x64, these two. Now, based on the bit specification, now if your machine is a 32-bit,
you'll download x64 executable. If your machine is 64-bit, you'll download x86 executable. This is very quite important to understand these things, because most of the downloads that we'll be using, even if you want to create payloads from in a cybersecurity field, you need to understand the bit of the machine. If it's 32, we'll be using 64. If it's 64, we'll be using 86. Quite handy. For this case, I'll be downloading the x86 executable because my machine is 64-bit. Now click that. That's the first thing that will be downloading. After you download, make sure you click the executable so that the file can start running. Click just to initiate the operation. Everything, just click next.
So next in line, after initiating an download of Microsoft distributable Visual C++, next one that you're going to download is the VirtualBox. For this case, we're going to use the Oracle VirtualBox. So just head to your browser and search Oracle VirtualBox. There's one. Click the first link. Okay. Direct you over there. You'll get it. Now from this point, from this website, click download. Now from this point here, as you can see the virtual box packages. Now these are the host operating system, and you remember from the model that I was showcasing the layout of how we are going to install our infrastructure. You saw we had the host operating system after the physical hardware, and then next in line of the host operating system. Now this sits between the hypervisor and the guest operating system, not the guest, rather the host. Now in this case, you need to understand what's your host operating system. If it's Windows, you can go with Windows. If you're using Mac OS, as I told you earlier, you can go with Mac OS, Linux, Solaris. There's so many. For this case, I'll be using Windows. Windows. Therefore, I'll be clicking Windows. That one, I hope that one is started to download. In my case, it's downloading. We'll still head back to our browser because we need to. The last thing that you're going to choose to download. The last thing that you're going to download. Just a minute. So from this browser, I'm going to search for one Kali. Now we'll type kali.org.org. Now the first, click on the first link that is presented to you to direct you to this interface, to this website. You can take some time and go through this documentation. You can get to understand the tools. Now this is the infrastructure, the physical hardware. You see, you can install Kali on a phone, on a monitor, that's a desktop, on a cloud, that's bare metal. If you want to install directly to your BIOS, cloud, if you want container, USB. You see, all these are infrastructure that you need to understand, so that you need, depending on the type of tools or hardware that you have, you can be able to have the right kind of Kali Linux or uh, any kind of operating system that you want. Now you can see the tools that you'll be getting: Kali Linux, the Metasploit, MNAP, Maltego, SQLNAP, Wireshark. All these are tools that you'll be getting or interacting with from Kali Linux. And as I said, I'll be using Kali Linux because I'll be focusing on cybersecurity and penetration testing, but later on you'll be understanding all the other type of flavors, or depending on your need. Now from this point, click download, and then click the install images. From install images, use this, the first one, the installer,
complete offline installation and customization. There's one, you use that one and it has everything. Click installation. Now from this point, I believe everything is uh, everything is okay. Just a minute. Everything is downloading. So I think the first episode is complete to this point. And from the next episode we'll be doing focusing fully on the installation. Now that we have the requirement, we understand what we want. I think I'll give you some space so that if you have any problem, you can share your feedback. You can understand if you are where the problem is before we proceed further. Thank you guys for this far, for taking your time to watch. Please subscribe, share, comment, and like.